Welcome to another Save Your Books video. I'm just going to show you how to make a hollow out of paper to put on the back of your spine in case that's something you need to do while you're repairing your book. First thing is to use glue. I have this mixed with some methyl cellulose so there's more slip time. Just adding some water would do the same kind of thing, but this is less wet. I'm covering it pretty thoroughly. Then I take my paper. I made sure it was big enough to fit 4 times plus a little bit the width. You have to make sure that the paper extends further than the edge of the book. This one's a little tight. It's kind of more exact. You want to leave right here the thickness that the tube will be after you've rolled it, that you're adding extra. Basically, leave a 1/16 of an inch from the edge. Pull your paper back 1/16 of an inch. So here I've attached it pretty thoroughly, and now I'm going to fold up this side to be exactly lined up with the edge. So I've left a 1/16 on this side. This side is exact, and now I want to slide it off. That's why you leave so much glue on there, is because you want to slide it off, and it won't do that if it's attaching too quickly. Now I'm just going to fold it over on itself, and it's easier to do if you kind of pull the edges, outwards while you're rolling it. Now I've got it out, and I can just glue it one more time. It's a bit much. Don't need quite as much now because I just want it to attach. Roll it again. I always keep a damp rag nearby. There we go. So now I have a hollow with, it's called a 2 on 2 off hollow because there's 2 pieces of paper on each side. And now I can add a little bit more glue, maybe just the areas that aren't as wet anymore. Sometimes I'll roll this out a little bit just to get it to be more, rounded shaped. And I try to maintain the direction that I was going so that in case it's slightly narrower on one side, I've maintained that. Sometimes books are not completely, even from here to here. So if you just keep rolling it, remember I started with the edge on this side and then roll it, roll it, roll it. So my extra paper is always on this side. Not completely crucial. You can make the whole thing off the book and then attach it later. That is one way to do it. And I'm really making sure that it's even side to side on both edges. This is a great place to just use your knife and cut this off. You can be very precise that way. Let's get rid of that. And there's my hollow. One thing I really like to do is to iron it afterwards to make sure it's firmly attached because, as we know, heat reactivates PVA and it will just kind of squish it back on there even more firmly. So that is really on there. And we'll just see how this is going. Sometimes the glue gets squished out a little bit on the edges. You can take your micro spatula and scrape that off there. And you'll also want to trim, holding the book in, if you're right-handed, hold the book in your left hand, and then take the scissors and you just kind of scoop it around like that. So, and I'm looking directly at the top of the end band, and I'm just cutting around that way and cutting an angle at both sides here. Then when I'm putting it back in the case, it'll fit nicely, and I'll have these little flaps, which will be inconspicuous, going back onto the inner paper. So I've got the front of the book. I'm not going to do it right now, but we're getting there. And there's a trick to putting this down so it'll stay in place, and we'll get back to that. But meanwhile, I'll let this dry before I move on to the next part.